Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 19 of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Providence. And this is the very hotly anticipated follow-up to last week's episode, Turn, 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 and this episode does not disappoint. This is fantastic stuff. I just look at this and I think, God, why couldn't the show have been like this from the beginning? Now, again, all first shows on their first season need some time to work out the bugs, to make sure people understand the quote-unquote formula. It's where they tend to do a lot of standalone stories at the beginning of a season, especially for the beginning of a series. But it just really was over. The season really has been overshadowed by having to wait for last episode, so we didn't really get as many of those big payoffs, that we needed to really make people stick with the show the way they really should have. I mean, seriously, if they've been doing stuff on this level from the very beginning, this would probably be one of the hottest shows on TV. And it's crud. Sorry, I have my iPad sitting on its side, which of course turns out to be an extraordinarily bad idea. But yeah, but anyway, okay, really, really good episode. Oh god, I love it. I love this show. Before I was always just like, I looked forward to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I was never really pumped for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is the first time I've ever really been pumped for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm usually pumped for every single episode of Arrow, so understand why this is a big deal for me. But anyway, let's just get into everything. So what we're going to do is, what we always do is briefly, let's talk about the characters, and then we're going to talk about what's going on with the bigger picture. So let's just kind of start going through the list. And we might as well start over with the bad guys. So we get to see Raina come back. And I love how Garrett immediately slaps her with the nickname Flowers. I don't know, maybe he's been watching a Game of Thrones or reading George R.R. Martin in his spare time. But then again, getting his taste for Blue Oyster Cult and all that other stuff, I'm pretty sure Garrett's taste run retro 70s. But anyway, so we get to see that Raina is extraordinarily disappointed to discover that Garrett is not a psychic. In fact, he even reiterates that to the best of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s knowledge, actual precognition does not exist. But I'm really curious. She said that I wanted to ask him a question. And this kind of hints to me that Raina might be somebody that we will continue to see after Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has not been officially renewed for a second season. I think it's pretty safe to say this is probably going to happen, just given the ties between ABC, Disney, and Marvel, and the fact that the show has actually been doing all right in the ratings. It's not been burning up the charts, but it's done solid enough business. And with this, it's probably not going to be too unreasonable to think that the ratings are going to have gone up. So I think we will be seeing Raina again, and she does go show that after her initial disappointment to get back on the ball pretty quickly now that since Scorch killed the centipede scientist lady back in Hong Kong. Oh, and speaking of that whole thing, somebody on TV Tropes noticed, and I had forgotten about this, the way they go into the secret base through the barber shop, that's actually a nod to how you got into the old S.H.I.E.L.D. secret headquarters from the comics in the 60s. And yes, it's pretty ridiculous, but one has to understand, in the 60s, that's just kind of what they did. They didn't really take all this stuff too terribly seriously. And, well, let's face it, when you're writing about stuff like this, if you try and take it too seriously, it's just going to come across as absurd. You need to have a sense of humor about these sort of things. There are many things in life, particularly comic books, that really do not need to be taken deadly seriously. And if you've, like me, and you've encountered people online who do take comic books deadly seriously, you know they are the biggest buzzkills on God's green earth. But anyway, not too awful much to say about Raina. Just that I do like that they take her and get her in a position where she's able to start really make stuff happen again. Now, Garrett, you can tell Bill Paxton is having an absolute blast on this. Now, granted, Bill Paxton is a guy who really excels at doing bad guy characters. I don't know if I exactly call him a character actor. He has better range than that. But still, you can tell that he's been having quite a bit of fun playing Garrett, and some of the side behind the scenes photos tweeted by the folks who work on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. seem to indicate that he had quite a bit of fun with the gang. There was really fun with him and Chloe fooling around on bicycles. Wait, not that kind of fooling around, just goofing around, having fun. Yeah, okay. Well, we're just gonna let that one go. But yeah, obviously Bill Paxton is having himself a grand old time with Garrett. And now Garrett doesn't have to pretend to be a decent guy anymore, so he can just really let it all hang out. And I absolutely love that scene in the fridge where he's talking to Ward, and he's laughing about, oh yeah, I locked up some lame dude by the name of Johnny Horton here who had lion's paws for hands. I mean, like, how in the world was that useful? Okay, first of all, that's genuinely funny. And second of all, I looked it up on the Marvel Wiki, and the character he's referring to, John Horton, is an actual Marvel Comics supervillain called the Griffin. And he's tangled with the Avengers and fought Iceman and Beast from the X-Men. He's fought Spider-Man. He's just one of those guys that whenever they need to fill out a small sort of mini supervillain army, he's one of those people that they kind of pluck out to fill in the ranks. Not anybody of any real respectable accomplishments on his own. Still, I do get a big kick out of that, and apparently he was also a member of Red Crimson Cowl's supervillain army from Thunderbolts, and Thunderbolts is good stuff. Good stuff. Especially the when Kurt Busiek was still writing that series. That's definitely worth your time to go and hunt up if you want some good comics. And actually rather fitting given what's recently happened, but I won't say any more than that for fear of giving away some of the really cool stuff about Thunderbolts. But anyway, we also kind of get in some insight into what's going on with Garrett from Ward, who said that Garrett pulled him out of basically pulled him out of hell. Now, I think there's still more to be told in regards to what's going on with Ward, and we might as well move on and talk to him. It sort of sounds to me like Ward is referencing just Garrett got him out of that crappy childhood, crappy situation he spent as a kid. I can kind of imagine he might have been in a situation sort of like what Coulson said, where Nick Fury recruited him for S.H.I.E.L.D. right out of high school. And I can see that, it's not unreasonable to think that Garrett probably did the same for Ward. And if that's the case, then it's really not too unreasonable to think that Ward's first loyalty would be to Garrett. I mean, he probably doesn't really give a crap about whatever Hydra has to say. He really seems to be more there for Ward. I'm sorry, for Garrett. And that's an interesting look. But I really love the way Ward this episode just really goes through the list. And it matches up kind of with what I said last time around about how he saved Simmons in order to really help him integrate with the group. He seduced May to kind of get her, kind of get around her. And I love how he sort of did that whole, says, oh yeah, I did the whole loner thing because Coulson would see me as someone he needed to fix, and that's how he gets around Coulson. I mean, it's really, really chilling, but I absolutely love villains like this. I love smart villains who know exactly how to hit the heroes at their weakest spot. And I'm not talking like kryptonite or any kind of crap like that. Any Joker in comics can go out and get some kryptonite or whatever is your hero's particular weakness. But it's the weaknesses here. Especially for Marvel characters, the first real superheroes to come with the whole feet of clay problem. That's interesting stuff, and I just love it. I love it when the bad guys, hit the heroes with their psychological weaknesses and their emotional weaknesses, because it makes for such great storytelling. And I really love that line where Ward is sort of laughing at him. Garrett is laughing at him like, "Oh, really, a Tom Brady? Like you're no New England Patriots fan." And Ward goes, "Well, yeah, but the Garrett Ward that Sky knows would be." And That's just so. I just love how that just shows that he's really. It's sold, folks. I mean, I know we were all a little bit ambiguous on maybe Ward was a double agent or a triple agent or something like that last week. Well, this episode makes it pretty darn clear that no, Ward is genuinely a bad guy. We thought maybe that the whole thing with the hand might have been staged. No. I was pretty skeptical of that idea myself, but just like, as soon as Ward shot those two guards in the elevator, it's like, nope, no way is this an act. So yeah. But the one thing that's still kind of there is that that Ward still might genuinely have some feelings for Skye. He seems to be genuinely upset that Ian Quinn shot her in the stomach. But I don't think this is going to be a redemption thing for Ward. I really don't. What I do think might happen, though, is I really can't imagine that there's going to be enough real. We only have 2 episodes left, as best I know, and I just don't think that that's enough time to really just frankly kill off Ward and have it be a satisfying conclusion. What I think might happen is that they'll probably kill off Garrett, and Ward sort of steps into his shoes as a high-ranking member of Hydra. That gives them a reason to keep a character that fans now love to hate around as sort of a reoccurring nemesis for the team. It makes what looks like it's probably much going to happen for sure now that Triplet will take Ward's place on the team, and gives Coulson a reoccurring, and the team are kind of a reoccurring nemesis. Him and Reyna. Yeah, I mean that's really good stuff there, and we'll talk a little bit more about the connection between Ward and Coulson in a minute. We do get to see Ian Quinn back briefly, and I love how Quinn's whole thing is he starts ranting like at Garrett, like, "You jerk! Look what you did! You've ruined my life!" And then of course the Gravitonium. Now I don't know if we're gonna get to see Graviton back. I mean, there's just so many balls in the air. I mean, we've got all this stuff going on with Hydra. The Gravitonium is back in play. Deathlock is still out there. And now we've got this whole thing of somebody else was in charge of the operation that brought Coulson back to life. And it wasn't Nick Fury. So I guess we might as well transition over and start talking about our heroes. And since I brought it up, we might as well talk about Coulson. Now, a lot of people, kind of, including me, have been speculating that Armin Zola was probably involved in that whole situation. And frankly, that still makes more sense to me than anything else. And it really seemed like if that was like the way he was supposedly destroyed in Winter Soldier, I mean, a guy whose mind lives inside a computer was destroyed when someone blew up his base, especially when there was a wireless internet connection right there. Nah. I'm thinking that maybe they had the actor who plays him, I can't remember the guy's name, might have recorded a few additional lines for use in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and have using that, screen Armin Zola. I mean, that's totally doable on a TV budget. And it would, of course, be a real big surprise to have him trotted back out for Captain America 3. So I think that's definitely a possibility on the table. And of course, Coulson's even more freaked out about by this. And I love how he is still royally pissed off at May. I mean, he's basically can barely physically if he knew that trying to physically throw May out of his office would be an extraordinarily bad idea, he would have done it. I mean, he might count her as an ally, but he is not down for just sort of any casual conversation with May. She is strictly a speak to her only when necessary mode, and I love how you can tell this is just absolutely killing May. But what's really cool about Coulson here, and oh god, gotta love Greg Clark. I mean, I knew the man was talented before. He's got absolutely wonderful comedic timing. He could definitely do drama, but here, this is really his finest hour. I mean, when Coulson just absolutely flips out there in the woods and about how, like, we are agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that still means something. I mean, think about this. Coulson even says that Nick Fury recruited him out of high school, which I guess means that one, Nick Fury is somewhat older than him, and I guess in his early days at S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury was stuck working the career booth at high schools. Everybody's got to start somewhere, right? But anyway, that basically Coulson's entire adult life has been dedicated to serving S.H.I.E.L.D., and particularly in serving Nick Fury. And you can see why, given that Coulson is one of the few people that Nick Fury places really, really strong trust in. I mean, again, Fury found Coulson just out of high school. I mean, the guy was barely able to vote when Nick Fury found him. So it makes sense that if Fury has been kind of cultivating Coulson all this time, that he would place a pretty hefty amount of trust in him. And of course, he even rigs in the coordinates for an emergency fallback place into Coulson's badge. The one thing that Fury knows Coulson would not part with except on pain of death. But when he's out there in the woods, he thinks Fury is dead. Everything he has dedicated his life to, everything that he has sacrificed for, including apparently the real love of his life, seems to have just completely turned to ash. And Clark is phenomenal in that moment. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. And of course, Patton Oswalt clues him into the fact that, hey, Nick Fury is alive, and Captain America and a couple of other people know. You probably should have elaborated on that. Like, who exactly knows that Nick Fury is alive? That probably is information that Coulson needs to know, but Patton Oswalt, can't remember his character's name, who apparently is a genuine character from the comics, just not a well-known one. Probably should fill him in on that. But anyway, let me see. Ward and Coulson. Well, again, if we kind of assume that Garrett pulled Ward out of his crappy childhood, or basically got him when he was still a teenager or had just become an adult, and kind of got him out of that situation, then that sort of makes Garrett sort of basically an evil counterpart to Nick Fury. And that makes Ward, evil Coulson. What Coulson could have been if Hydra had gotten their tentacles on him at a young age, instead of the genuine and good aspects of S.H.I.E.L.D. And setting up Garrett basically as young, evil Coulson is really, really good stuff. I love stuff like that. And again, this is one of the reasons why I think Ward will be around as a reoccurring nemesis should the series get a season 2. Okay, so let's move on to the other folks. Not a huge amount to say about Skye. Just Skye, you really should not be making phone calls that you. I mean, do you know for sure that phone is secure? I mean, granted, nobody has any reason to think that Ward is a bad guy at this point, but just doing that seems like a massively bad idea. And you would think that Patton Oswalt would have said, hey, why don't you use that over there? Well, okay, Skye ended up telling Ward, we are at these coordinates anyway, so I guess he's like, whatever. And I guess, I guess he was like, oh, I guess, well, Coulson trusts these guys, I guess I'll have to trust his judgment, whatever. Still, I kind of think he probably should have at least said, like, hey, can you hold off on that for a minute? And, not a whole lot to say about Patton Oswalt's character. Again, he's from the comics. I'm not familiar with him. I just get a big kick out of the fact that Patton Oswalt, of all people, is on this show. Not that I have anything against the guy. I actually think he's quite funny. Just one of those people that you never would really expect to pop up playing a secret agent on a show like this. But, hey, TV's full of surprises, right? We've already talked about May. I really don't have anything else to say about her. Nothing really particularly to say about Triplet. I'm kind of disappointed that they're, like, still sort of spending some time on this whole thing with Fitz and Simmons. And it's like, Fitz, if you're interested, just say something, because seriously, the time is now. But, maybe now here in the Canadian woods, fleeing for your lives, now is not really the time to obsess over your love life, or lack thereof. But I do like how Simmons puts it that, what was it? Darn it, where'd it go? Yeah, it's too late for that. Because, things have changed, and there's no going back to the way things were. I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. has been labeled a freaking terrorist organization. So you really have to wonder, I mean, what does that mean for the honest and good S.H.I.E.L.D. agents out there? The people who were just genuinely trying to do their job. I mean, what about, like that technician guy who stands up to, Brumlow in Winter Soldier? I mean, is he getting thrown in jail or something just because he worked for S.H.I.E.L.D.? Well, probably not. Because we did see in the epilogue of Black Widow basically mouthing off to Congress or whatever, and she just strolled on out of there. So presumably she wasn't under arrest. So, but again, this is only like 24 hours after everything in Winter Soldier. Maybe not even that. So, anyway, let me see. Yeah, I think that kind of covers everything that in relates to the character. So let me just look at my list here and see about some of the other details. Yep. One thing I really like. One of the S.H.I.E.L.D. facilities they mention is the Cube. Again, this is from the comics. It's another bad guy prison. And if I remember correctly, it first appeared in the Marvel Boy miniseries written by the very talented Scottish comic author Grant Morrison. And despite being called Marvel Boy of all things, it's honestly really, really cool stuff. And it's very worth hunting up. I don't think they ever collected it, but I have the individual issues. I bought it when it was first coming out years ago just because I really love Grant Morrison as a writer. And it's a really very fun series, and it's full of all these big crazy ideas that Grant Morrison really excels at. And the Cube has popped up several times since then. I think it was even mentioned in the Secret Invasion storyline that the Skrulls took it over or something like that. I don't remember the details. Oh yeah, we do get the whole thing with the hard drive does get picked up again, so I'm glad they didn't let that slide by. Oh yeah, I loved at the fridge how the guards were not stupid. They're like, yeah, call friggin' Victoria Hand, because those are our orders. We're not going to let you in here, and we're certainly not going to cross her. And it literally takes an attack by an assault helicopter to get them to open the door, which, let's be honest, was the perfectly reasonable thing to do. Yeah, one thing that I think folks might forget is that Joss Whedon did rewrites on a film by Don Bluth called Titan AE. And there's a scene where the heroes are trying to sneak past some guards, and one of the guards, one of the heroes, quote unquote, is trying to pretend to be a slaver in order to sneak past the guards. And with one of the other heroes as a slave he's planning to sell, the guard immediately points out all these complete and utter holes in his story, and they just end up hitting the guards over the head. And one of the guys goes, an intelligent guard, who would have imagined? And you can tell that was totally one of Joss Whedon's moments. So you can kind of have sense the little hand of Joss Whedon in that moment, I think. Oh yeah, of course we find out that the slingshot is a lie, and this really is not a huge surprise, simply because, as is pointed out, you really think that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury are going to give away power, and that's what the things in the fridge represent. I'm sorry, the toy shop or the toy box or whatever represent. I mean, these are power, and people in positions like Fury, organizations like S.H.I.E.L.D., they don't give away power. And yeah, I think that kind of covers everything that I have to say about this episode. Again, I am just insanely looking forward to to the next season of this show. I mean, sorry, the next couple of episodes. I think it's just going to be pure balls out craziness. And it's going to be a lot of fun. At this point, I really just cannot imagine the show not getting picked up for a second season. And I think that if that does happen, that I think the second season of this show would be much stronger than the first, simply just because they don't have this whole situation with a key element of the show being tied up in a movie hanging over their heads. They can really go out there and do their own thing, and I think the show would definitely be much stronger for it. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you this time. Until next time, take care.